do you do when you're interviewing like a royal family? Do you have to wait? What is the protocol for that?
Yes, you go to visits, you wait for the briefing, but what you have to do, like any other area of journalism, really, is you have to develop contacts. It's the same as if you're a sports reporter, a celebrity reporter. You develop contacts with those around the star, the public figure, and you get a steer on what the news is that way. And so, yeah, but my attitude to the royals at first was I was fervent anti-monarchist. Back then, in my younger days, I thought Buckingham Palace should be closed down and turned into a homeless hostel, and that should solve the homeless problem in London. I thought that would be a great gesture for the royals, and they should move out to Windsor Castle. And I didn't see their value as anything more than a photo opportunity or a tourist attraction. However, as I've gotten older and I've moved away, I think there's a lot of truth in the phrase that there's nothing more patriotic than an English person who no longer lives in England.
Yes,
my Union Jack tells me
that's
it's all
so true.
right. That's always around.
And look what mug I'm drinking. Look at my lipstick, but look at my mug.
Well, exactly. We're very patriotic, and so a consequence of
incredibly.
Of that, you'll see the flag of St. George on my lapel here. So I'm now on the board of the Royal Society of St. George, which is the Queen's charity in America. It's existed since 1894, and what it does is, inspired by St. George, England's patron saint, it slays metaphorical dragons. It encourages young people to fulfill their talents, and it champions English values and the spirit of St. George around the world. And so what a journey I've been on, from being fervently anti-monarchist. Here I am doing work for the Queen's charity and being so proud to do so.
I think that's amazing. I'd never heard of the Queen's charity over here till I was reading up, on everything, all the amazing things that you've done. It's like, who knew?
Yes, it's wonderful. If anyone wants any information, Royal Society of St. George, Southern California branch, come and join us. You don't even have to be British. You just have to admire the spirit of Englishness and royalty. And God save the Queen. God save the Queen.
I tell you, the day that she is no longer with us will be such a sad day. I love the royal family. Mm-hmm. I love them so much.
That's been the case, Charlie.
What's that?
Has that always been the case?
Always. I've always loved the royal family. Yeah, because my family loved the royal family. And so, I grew up in a very, pro-royal household. And I remember Diana's wedding, like, oh my gosh. And when because even then I loved weddings, and when she stepped out of that dress and it was all crinkled and wrinkled, I remember going, oh, the horror of the dress, but then loving the dress.
That long train, yes.
That train, oh my God! It was a fairy tale, and in those days we believed in the fairy tale, But that fairy tale turned into a nightmare, and it changed modern celebrity in such a way. It changed the way we look at the royal family. It knocked a lot of them off their pedestals, and have never been the same since. But yes, and now. And now I get to cover Diana's sons, who I think are her greatest legacy. Oh, love them. It lives on through them. And yes, it's they grew up in front of our eyes, didn't they? They certainly did. And I love Harry and Meghan together. I'm a huge Meghan fan. She's so eloquent when she speaks. I wish they still lived in England, but. We have a slight differing of opinion there, because I started as a huge Meghan fan, but I think more recently, I think that she and Harry have been disrespectful to the Queen. Just little things, not visiting for Christmas. I mean, all of us have to go and visit Granny for Christmas, whether we like it or not. So little sort of things like that, and it's such a shame, because I thought there was such an opportunity there in Meghan and Harry as the most exciting sort of couple in the world, to really sort of bring everybody along. But there seems to be a bit of division there, and it hasn't been all as rosy as it was a few years ago.
Hopefully it could be recovered, but who knows?
Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying, but I'm reading the book Finding Freedom right now. Have you read that book?
I have indeed, yes.
Yes, and I'm hearing in the book. You hear her side of the story and their side of the story, and so it's like politics. I'm in the middle of like, oh well, okay, so well, you don't spend every Christmas with Granny. I get that, and there's all sorts of other things in the book that's really interesting as well. And I don't know, I'm torn at the moment as to. I wish they still lived in England because that's really kind of where they belong. But I feel sad for her of what she's been through with the bullying, because the press in England are, can be brutal, right?
I would massively disagree. They had been brutal in the past, but now they are held to stricter reporting standards than anywhere else in the world. They have to cover through a particular code. And I do feel that Meghan and Harry would actually be more protected in Britain than they were in America. You can't fly a drone over Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace, all the problems they've had here, for example. And I think it's important not to confuse media with social media, because the media are reporting on them under reporting restrictions laid down by laws, whereas social media, to quote Ricky Gervais, is one big toilet wall. And so there is a difference between the two.
True. Yeah. I know. That's what I love about this. One opinion, another opinion, another. It's so interesting. We'll never know the true story.
Well, hopefully we will, because all of us journalists always like to get to the truth. But we will see. I mean, they do continue to be, at least to my mind, the most fascinating celebrity story on the planet.
They actually truly are. I mean, the fact that we don't see as many pictures of them now on social media, I would love seeing pictures of them and what she was wearing and the baby, and we don't see that now.
What do you think of America's royal family? I am, of course, talking about the Kardashians.
Kardashians?
Yes.
I have to say that I think they're amazing businesswomen. I absolutely do. And I think they work really hard. I don't always agree with what they do and how they do it and how they portray themselves, but I have to say that they are amazing businesswomen. And I take my hat off to them.
Yes, absolutely. Their show is coming to an end after 14.
I know. I'm sad about that.
It's America's most exported show around the world. So if there's a negative attitude towards America around the world, maybe the Kardashians are partly responsible. But I learned that American television reflects its audience's aspirations, whereas British television reflects its audience. And for that, you just need to look at the soap operas, whereas the soap operas in Britain are very much more everyday, working class, relatable. Yes. The soap operas here are very aspirational. And just as with Dallas and Dynasty in the 80s, we now see the Kardashians, and it's just a style of TV viewing here that you sort of look up to a fantasy and see it as achievable. And we bought into it. We moved to America.
We did. We bought and we drank the Kool-Aid, and here we are, 20 years later. Loving it.
Yeah.
It is a wonderful place. It has its pros and cons, like everywhere. But we're very lucky that we do what we do. Do you remember your first celebrity interview? I know you mentioned it in your book.
Well, my first one in Hollywood still ranks as my most embarrassing. It was with Jimmy Stewart, the legend of so many great movies, like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, It's a Wonderful Life, Harvey. Yeah. And when I met him, very starstruck, I was immediately struck by the fact that he looked so much older in person, of course, than he did. I remembered him from all those black and white movies. So naively, with the stupidity of youth, I decided to speak to him the way I spoke to old people back then, by shouting. So the went like this: "You were in It's a Wonderful Life. What's been the most wonderful part of your life?" And Jimmy Stewart graciously put up with this clown for about 15 minutes before he eventually snapped and said, "Why are you shouting, son? I'm old, but I'm not deaf." So, lesson learned, rookie mistake. And then it got worse, because he interviewed, said, "Oh, well, let me introduce you to my friend Charlton Heston." And and again, Charlton Heston puts out his hand, and I should have said, "Nice to meet you, Charlton Heston." But the night before, I'd been watching The Planet of the Apes, so I couldn't think it would be funny if I quoted to Charlton Heston a line from that movie. And as he tried to shake my hands, I went, "Get your stinking paw off me, you goddamn dirty ape." And that was funny. So we all have setbacks. And that was a big one, but I kept going. And if I just cut out the stupidity and keep more of the professionalism than the idiocy, if I can strike that balance right, maybe I can continue to be a celebrity interviewer.
You've got it just right, Sandro, because you just have this deprecating humor that is just so sweet and adorable, and people connect to it, and you just have this lovely aura about you that people just can connect with you. And you draw things out of people. It's lovely. That's why you're where you are in the business.
You have to use empathy in interviewing, and with everybody I interview, I always try and think, well, what's in their head at the moment? What are they going through? And you're not there to make the person like you. You're there to do a job for the audience and draw something out of them that they can relate to. And I definitely think that celebrity is the prism through which we view our own lives. If that doesn't sound too arty-farty, I think it always has been. I think if you look at somebody like Jennifer Aniston, for example, and you think, oh, well, she's got all the looks and all the money in the world, but she hasn't made a successful marriage work as much as she might want to, or things like that. And then people think, oh, well, maybe if she can't do that, maybe I don't feel so bad about myself. That's certainly a lot of comfort for me when I look at all the failings in my own life and think, oh, well, this celebrity hasn't done that, or that celebrity hasn't done that. And I think to hear them talk about these things, to talk about what they're feeling rather than just they're working on is really the most interesting interview. At least that's what I respond to anyway.
Yeah, because we want to know who they are and what makes them tick and how did they get to be who they are. Like, I find it fascinating for you when you were growing up. You were like, you just knew what you wanted to do at like a really young age, didn't you? And I love the story that you tell in your book about how you put in a famous person in England in their letterbox, asking them questions for your school newspaper. Tell that story. I love it.
I, as you know, always wanted to be a celebrity interviewer, and the school newspaper wouldn't hire me. I was a bit too sensationalist and tabloid for them. So
at what age is this?
And so I thought, right, I'll start my own rival, independent school magazine.
Ooh, you were a troublemaker then, Sandro.
Yes, there might have been some gossip about, the relationship between the chemistry teacher and the French mistress, but I also sort of packed it full of celebrity as well. And I had a newspaper delivery round, and one of the people on my newspaper route was Russ Abbott, then one of the top comedy stars in Britain. And I rather cheekily, along with his morning newspaper, dropped a note taped around the newspaper explaining that I was starting this school magazine, was an aspiring journalist, had included 5 questions, and if he wanted to fill in the answers, it would be a great help in my fledgling career. When I delivered his evening newspaper that night, sticking out of the letterbox were the answers. And so my first celebrity interview was Russ Abbott, splashed on the front page of my school magazine. And it to ask, it pays to be bold. Never do anything sneaky. Always do anything honest, and that seems to work. And the school magazine became a big hit, and that encouraged me. And as you say, I was I journalism, but I had to work hard to make it happen to actually get out to Hollywood.
What was the job that brought you out to America?
It was working for Sky Television. I had covered a lot of Sky TV shows when I was showbiz editor of various national newspapers in Britain. So they knew me, and they were looking for somebody to be out there in Hollywood permanently for them, because